Thou art Peter, the rock, and upon this rock I will build my church. I certainly established a church on earth, but I did not want an organization. I say this to all those who interpret my word. Thou art Peter, the rock, and upon this rock I will build my church, such that I myself am the founder of worldly organizations which call themselves the true Church of Christ. Like all my words, these, too, were intended to be understood spiritually. In fact, they are very easy to comprehend if the faith of my disciple Peter is understood as a rock, which everyone must possess in order to belong to my true church. My church is a purely spiritual foundation. It is to be understood as a community with a faith as rock-hard as Peter's, but never the amalgamation of people in a purely secular organization, which has to be called secular because everything that proves the affiliation to this organization must be outwardly recognizable, and because further regulations or laws were decreed which inhibit a person's thinking and actions, which entirely contradicts my will. It is my will that people wanting to belong to my church should strive towards me of their own free will, which necessitates faith in me as well as love. Neither can be enforced nor achieved through regulations. Love for me does not awaken as a matter of duty but through faith in my perfection, and although this faith can be taught, it cannot be demanded. The human being must bring himself to believe after he has received knowledge of me, of his Creator and Father of eternity. A human being only becomes a member of my church through this self-attained faith. Therefore my church cannot be an organization with a mass of members who lack living, self-attained faith. For although faith and love are being preached, the listeners must nevertheless first activate their will in order to acquire the right of belonging to the church which was founded by me. And therefore I repeatedly emphasize that people could not have formed this church by establishing an organization in which, like in any worldly organization, leaders of various ranks work, to whom I have never appointed such a ministry, whose functions are more of a ruling than a serving nature, and who are often not members of the church I founded themselves, because they, too, only believe blindly what they were taught and as yet have neither acquired a convinced faith through deliberation nor a living faith through activity of love. Hence these believe themselves to be my representatives on earth, and yet they are unable to convey truthful knowledge to people because they don't possess it themselves. They feel that they are Peter's successors, but they are not, because their faith lacks the strength of a rock. As soon as it is tested, the church founded by me will prove itself. Not even the gates of hell will defeat it. But once the walls of the former are shaken, which is intended by my will, it will not survive, and only blindly believing fanatics will remain steadfast, but not on account of conviction but because of fanaticism, which is not valued by me as faithfulness. For I want people to think about everything they encounter, and it is my will that they shall acquire vision and don't remain blind due to their own fault. I also want them to think about my words, Thou art Peter, and upon this rock I will build my church, and the gates of hell shall not prevail against it. I want people to reflect on how these words of mine are to be understood. It is my will that they should be truthfully interpreted, and you humans also recognize when human interpretation does not correspond to the spiritual meaning which I have placed into my words. And you will be able to recognize it if you dwell on it with willingness for the pure truth. When you are taught by those who call themselves my representatives on earth, my true representatives are certainly informed of the truth and can therefore also provide their fellow human beings with a correct explanation regarding my word and its deeper spiritual meaning. However, my representatives also belong to the church founded by me, even though they are not members of an earthly organization. My true representatives will also announce in my name to all spiritual organizations the end of their existence, because everything that has distanced itself from the real truth will fade away, even if people are convinced that the church will be invincible. Only the church which I myself have founded on earth will be invincible, which is a spiritual community of those with a faith like Peter's and who, through this faith, shape themselves into my image. Who can indeed have a living faith because they are instructed in the truth, who allow my spirit to be effective in them, which always is and will remain a sign of affiliation to the church I have founded. Amen.